Coach, once again, thank you very much for your time. It's been a very, very long weekend.
Yes.
I'm sure you are happy that it's concluded now.
No, definitely we are excited that we finish with this process, which is our first phase, and then we are now preparing for the second phase, which is going to start on the 15th and then conclude on the 22nd of February.
Coach, last weekend, the boys came in, a lot of them. In terms of the numbers, if you can just give us how many came through, how was the trial structured, and how many were selected from the process?
Yeah. All right. Thanks for again giving us the opportunity. We did the trials 2 weeks back on the 18th of January, and in that trials we had about 2,100 participants between the age of 14 and 12, which is opposed to what we did last year, where we had even older age groups. So because we had limited the numbers this time around to 2011 and 2012, so that's where we had about 2,100 participants coming through for the trials.
And you know, coaches, everyone, especially coaches, they think every boy they coach is a star.
Yeah.
But then when they come here and they don't get selected, they think, hey, what is happening here? What is it that from that first phase that you looked at that you were able to separate and say, okay, we can take these ones? And what was the number that you took in?
Okay. Well, the talent identification program is divided into several phases. Okay. The first phase is what we call the preliminary phase, whereby it's open to all the eligible players. So when we talk about eligibility, we talk about males who are between the age of 12 and 14, who are going to grade 8, who are healthy to play football. So that's the eligibility part of it. Then the kids will come and participate in the preliminary round, whereby they will come, they will register, they will be allocated teams, and then they will queue for their opportunity, and then they will participate. We will play games, and the games were duration was 12 minutes one way, and then after that the coach will make his decision based on what he's seen, and then from there we compile all the players who've been selected by various coaches. And in that regard, we had about 300 players that were identified from the trials, including the ones that were scouted, including the ones that were referred. So they made about 300 players, and those are the 300 that went into the next phase of assessment. In terms of what the coaches are looking for, I think it's the ability of the kids to play, technique, passing, receiving, dribbling, shooting, heading, positional play, functionality, tactical awareness, and basic fitness level, strength, speed, agility, power, aerobic endurance, anaerobic endurance, coordination, and also just the mental aspect in terms of aggression, ability to deal with the stress, the occasion, some of just the basics. But it's just mainly to separate those who have what it takes to go to the next phase and those who doesn't. So it's not necessarily the main thing that we do to say we are now selective. We are mainly because if you have 2,000 kids, you can't all assess them at the same time. So we have to sieve them, and then once you've sieved them, then that number that comes through is the one that you actually scrutinize.
So after the process, coach, because I noted in that process, you were busy, managing the logistics and the operations. You were not sitting down and assessing. So, and I noticed Coach Laz as well as also moving. So it was not necessarily you guys doing that assessment. So it was different set of coaches, because I noticed there were many other coaches in different fields doing the assessment. But then coming phase 2, I saw you now. You're sitting down there with pen and paper now. It's serious stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. So in terms of selection, so the first phase is different set of coaches, and now it was you guys, about Coach Lars, about sitting down and assessing. Why do you make that process, and how? Because I was looking at it in terms of controls to ensure that, you know, because people always make all sort of statements around bribery, corruption, brown envelopes, all those sort of things. And I noticed that the first phase, it wasn't you guys. Second phase, it was you guys, and now the third one is just teachers. If you can just take us through that, and also, you know, to emphasize that point of that, you know, different people, doing different things. There's no one person who's saying here yes, to enable things like corruption and brown envelopes.
No, of course, I think the first phase, for two reasons why we bring outside coaches. I think one is to legitimize the process, to say, look, here are different people, and when you look at the coaches that were there are coaches who are dealing with youth, who are actually coaching in GDL currently. So, you know, and some of them are people who are serving in SAFA as technical officials, and they handle the junior national teams at the provincial and regional level. So you are dealing with expertise from different areas coming together to select on our behalf, you know. And the 300 learners that were shortlisted is the byproduct of that process. You know, of course, our coaches might be involved here and there, but it's the byproduct of outside coaches, you know, shortlisting the players. Now, when we move to the second phase, because now it becomes an issue of ensuring that the talent that's coming in, it's suitable for what we want to do. So we have to also look at if the player has the elements that we are looking for to be able to suit into the style of play. Because I mean, if you bring in a player who's not going to be comfortable with possession football, it's going to be difficult for that player. So also now, because we understand the style of play, we understand the demands, we then take over that process from that one. But secondly, it's just manpower as well, so that when we present the preliminary round, we also take into effect, it takes long. I mean, yesterday we were here from 6:30 in the morning, we left at 6:30 in the evening. So it's a process that takes long. And if we have to rely only on coaches from the inside, it will take weeks to go through the process. And because we are not dealing with a pre-registration, you know, when you deal with pre-registration, you can say, okay, we've received 2,000 application, and then you start schedules. This week we are doing 200, next week 200, just like that. Here, you just do an open trial, everybody comes in, and you work with the maximum numbers you've had before. So based on that maximum number, then you say, okay, we might need to increase the fields. I mean, if I compare this year and last year we had about 6 fields that we were using. This year we doubled that number. We had 12 fields that we were using, and as a result we were able to fast track quite a lot of players. That's why even with time we were able to finish much earlier than what was expected.
Yesterday's trials, which is now phase 2, seemed a bit more intense because, you know, I saw it was 12 minutes each half. And I saw you guys were swapping to watch the other game while the other coaches swap, so that you can have consensus when you meet to decide. So how important is that process to rotate coaches to see each other and to allow these boys 24 minutes? Because I noticed some of them were tired by the time the second half ends. But that process, enough time, and then after that, those were selected still had to come in the afternoon as well for another session. If you can just take us through that, what you were looking for, and why some of these aspects like rotating coaches, giving them 24 minutes are important to allow you to be able to spot the talent.
All right. First of all, I think if you, due to time constraint, we had to then relook at our program for this intake. Just to give you a bit of background, normally what we do is that we have an open trial, which is like a very wide, funnel, the part of the funnel, and that will include doing open day here at the school where people come to the School of Excellence, but also going to provinces and regions and host. So all those players, once they have identified, then they go to what we call the second phase, which was the morning part yesterday. So there we divide them. We say, okay, inland provinces, you come to the School of Excellence for a weekend, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they get assessed, and then a number emerges from there. And then coastal, you do the same, you come to the School of Excellence, then the number emerges from there. Then you have open day trialists who came to the school. Also, we assess them, but because in terms of location, it's only one day. So they come in the morning, we skate. So in that, we call the second phase. So now the three groups, together with players who are scouted from tournaments, games, friendly games like we were doing this morning, players who are referred by national coaches, national scouts, provincial scouts, and all of. So all those players now, they come together into that phase, second phase, and then from there we those who then succeed from the second phase, they make the final phase, which is part and parcel of what you saw this morning. So in the final phase, then they come for a whole week. So from Sunday they check in, Monday to Friday they play football, write tests, do all sorts of assessment, and then Saturday morning they depart. So that's normally how we do the trials. But now, because we didn't have time, we had to now say, okay, given the pressure that we have, how do we then adjust our program? So what we needed to do was to say, okay, on Saturday we'll have two phases. So you'll have the morning phase, which will form as a second phase of the
normal program.
Yeah, of the normal program. Then the afternoon you'll have the third phase, which will serve as a national leg of the program. And that's why we wanted to have two phases. But now, under normal circumstances, then the coach, they sit and watch the same game together. But because of time, we couldn't do that, because we wanted to have another round. So we then said, okay, one set of coach will watch one half, and the other set will watch one half, and then at the break, the other set, the sets will swap around. What is important is that if we are going to deliberate about a player, we all have to have a same amount of time to see them, so that you remove the level of biasness, or maybe not able to assess the because some all these things also affect. I mean, if a player is going to play 12 minutes, another one 30 minutes, another one an hour, it can affect his chances of being selected. So all the players had to get the same time, and all the players had to be exposed to the different coaches for the same duration, because if they are not, then and they have to get votes. If you rely, you need a vote from me, and I didn't assess you properly, you will lose that vote, and you will have consequences that you won't meet the threshold. So that's the reason why we were swapping. But it has the same effect. It just gives the coach an opportunity to see the player, so that after the game, then the coaches come together, they deliberate, and then they award to say, this player, we give him 4 votes, this one 2 votes, this one 1 vote, that one 3 votes. And then based on the threshold, then we say the ones with 3 votes and 4 votes will go to the final stage.
Coach, lately there's a perception or maybe a view that open trials do not actually help, or they do not help teams or clubs meet their objectives. Limited, they say people time is limited, and because it's trials, some players suffer from stage fright, and then they are unable to play their normal game. Would you say the amount of time, like yesterday, 24 minutes, 12 minutes, is sufficient for anyone within youth football who has the ability or the skills to identify talent, to see a player and decide whether they can be absorbed or not?
Look, I think we have to distinguish between the two. I mean, when you are doing about talent identification, you still have time. in terms of developing this player. So you are looking at potential. If you are dealing with performance identification, you have to be sure, because now there is a commercial aspect. If I'm going to sign a striker, I have to be sure that that striker will be able to deliver the results, because there is money, there is contract, and so those two things require different duration of assessments. That's why when you identify players for first team, you kind of take quite a long time, because you're also looking for consistency. You're also looking for repertoire. You want to see the player how he behaves in different environments. When he's playing in a cup final, when he's playing in relegation. So you need a lot of inputs to make a decision. Whereas when you are identifying players for development, you are looking at potential, and that you can see from the word go. I mean, for example, a coach who's trained, you can see a boy who plays football regularly. You can see a boy who doesn't, and that their physique will tell you. This one you can see he trains every day, so you don't even need to do testing. Visually you can see, a boy who's able to control the ball with the outside of the foot, and the boy who's using the inside of the foot, but the ball still bounces off and get lost. Those are visual inspection you can just do, without going deep, So those the talent identification trials, you are dealing with superficial things that you are able to see while you are watching the game. Hence, people are able to go to a game and say, I saw a play. How did they know that player is good? Because they are using the same methodology. You go, you watch a player, you see how he interacts with the ball, and you say, this player I can recommend. People recommend players based on when they see them. Yes. They didn't take them for some extreme testing. They just went to a gravel field, sit there, drink, watch the game, and then there's a boy they think, this one has the potential to play, either professional football or go to School of Excellence or to GDL. And it's the same. And from there, of course, when you are dealing with talent identification, and at the end of the day, it comes, it's also issue of, having to take the risk, because no person can tell you that my method of identifying talent is 100%. There are players who were rejected, and I'm sure even with us, there are a lot of players that we don't take who eventually become a professional player somewhere, and good for them. So if you are in that space, you must also be brave to make decisions based on your experience, your wisdom, and your technical knowledge. So I think some of these things you can see, but what I've also found is that sometimes people are not able to accept the outcome, and as a result, they are looking to blame this person or blame the condition. And for me, if you are a player and you tell me 30 minutes of trial was not enough, I was scared, then you shouldn't be even dreaming of playing professional football, because if you can't play here, you think one day you'll wake up and able to play in front of a derby, because you are going to have the same nervous breakdown. So it's also part of assessment. When people are saying things to you, unaware, they're actually telling you that I'm not ready, because it's also part of psychological evaluation to say if this player can't handle anxiety, because that's anxiety basically. You are anxious to perform. If you can't handle it here at School of Excellence, just watched by 3 people, what do you think is going to happen when you go and play Sundowns in GDL, where there is pressure, people are shouting? So already those things are already telling you. So, but the reality is that as coaches also, we need to be honest to our players. If a player is not good enough to play at elite level, be honest with him. Don't give him reasons to say the coach was not even looking, he was busy playing with his phone. You are now saying to a player, you are good, you deserve to be there, but somebody disadvantage you, which is not the case.
Coach, this process, obviously, you get to interact with coaches who are bringing in players, the parents as well. You have to sit. I know this past week you were making a lot of calls after boys that were selected who had to come here. What are some of your experiences with dealing with, the coaches and parents who all believe that their boys are stars and should be taken by the School of Excellence?
Yeah, no, it's varied. I think some you deal with coaches who are very unethical. Sometimes you find a situation whereby they bring players, 15 players, and then the ones that they think are stars don't make it, and then we choose the others, and then they will try and bring the ones that they think are stars, and then not pass the message to those who are were actually selected. Then when you come here, like yesterday, there was a lot of people who came and said, no, I received an invitation, but when you check, it's not on the list. It's because the coach believes this player is the one who's supposed to be there, not this one. So you deal with those things. And others, coaches are, they are passionate. They want to see their players. They take pride in their players coming to the school excelling. So you have coaches who come from KZN, who are sleeping here, who spent the whole weekend here, just accompanying kids, without their parents. And they are not doing for the first time. They've been doing it for the last 15 years. Every time when there are trials, they organize kids from KZN, Eastern Cape, Mpumalanga, wherever. They bring those kids to trial. So there are parents who are enthusiastic about having their kids here. There are those who don't really care. You call, like one mother was calling morning around 11:10. You are sounding intoxicated already. Didn't even know what I was talking about, and was rude. We end up having to cut the call because he doesn't even know that the kid came here for trials. So it's things like that. And unfortunately, I'm sure even that kids never got the message because of how the person on the other side are. So you deal with different personalities. There are those that wants to bribe you already, and then tomorrow they accuse you of wanting a bribe. So it's a very difficult process, and even this morning at 5 I was getting calls. People are begging. People want their kids to come here. All sorts of things are promised. So at the end of the day, we have to run a clean program where the best emerges, and we are happy with the process despite the challenges we face, and we never get to talk about what we go through when we are doing trials.
Speaking about that, and I think it's an important point that it is mentioned. The process involved outside coaches, it involved internal coaches, it then went to academic where the assessment. Again, when the assessments were happening, you were busy with a friendly mess, so you're not even involved. What would be your message to people who, for example, say, when we post trial and say, it's a waste of time, they already know who they're going to select. They say, no, they are taking brown envelopes, those ones don't even bother sending your kids there. What would be your message to all those people who are very skeptical about the process?
For me, I think people like that, we shouldn't be working with, because you're never going to change their mind. The reality of the matter is that we'll never be at a position where there is no, we say come and do trials, and we arrive here, there is no one child who wants to come here. So there will be children who wants to come to the School of Excellence, and there are a lot of children, and our focus should be on people that believe in the program. We can't want to waste time on people that are skeptical about the program. They are saying things about the program. That should not be our focus. Our focus should be kids who want to come here, and we must take them through the process, and then the best must be inducted into the school. Those who want to be skeptical, who wants to insult us, who wants to do all this, it's their democratic rights. After all, Mandela went to prison so that they can do those things. So they are within their rights to do that. But our focus should be those kids who want to come here, because the ones that wants to come here are the ones that are going to give their best, unlike the ones that are forced to come here by parents or circumstances and so forth. So also we need to understand that as much as you are talented, that's not the beginning and the end of it all. There are lots of things. Personality comes into, discipline comes in, to lifestyle comes in. So already some of these things, when parents are saying this, coaches are saying this, it's form part of evaluation. That's why sometimes we bring kids here, we let them interact, stay here for a week. It's part of evaluation. You see, the ones who always crying is missing his parents, this one is not going to cope. The ones who can interact, with strangers, this one is not going to cope. So, like I said before, some of these assessments are visual and superficial. Some are very deep. So it's part of that. So if people feel that the school is not going to do them any good, then they are within their rights. Our focus should be those who wants to come. And I can tell you there are thousands and thousands who wants to come. Some of them, they were crying when they didn't make the cut. So it shows that the program works, people wants to come, and those should be our focus.
Coach, we've seen the talent coming out of the School of Excellence. In comparison, this year's trial is compared to the previous years in terms of the talent that came through. What is your view?
Look, I personally, I don't like to take that path, because talents evolve. There are players who are what they call early developers. And under 13, they are super, they do everything, and as they grow, they become tall, lethargic, and you wonder, okay, what did we go wrong? There are those that shows no prospects, and they later become professional. So from my experience, talent evolves, and once you start having this thing of saying this player is the best, it closes you from looking at the broader view. Yes, you can have years where the games are entertaining. You can have years where games are not entertaining, if that's the question. But I think at this time, it's very difficult to put your finger and say, this is the best year, because 3 years down the line, we'll be crying to say, this is the worst group. So you remain optimistic about the players that you select, to say we've selected the best. I think that's how I want to look at it, say all the players that we bring in are somehow meet our criteria, and they will able to develop into better players. But I won't want to say this year is better than the other year. I mean, I was observing the last year's team. We selected under very difficult circumstances, and they became the most balanced team, in terms of play. So I think that's how, if you are asking me in that direction, to say, okay, how balanced is the team, I would say we'll see once they are in. But in terms of individuals, there were individual players. I mean, there were players from Sundowns that came here. They were released by Sundowns. We saw them here. They, good players. There were players from TX Galaxy. There are players who were part of that under 15 talent scheme that were here. So you see such talents. But if I were to make a analysis based on that, then you say, yeah, it was exciting. But remember, you also have another 2,000 players, so it's not wise to take a small sample of good players that you see that entertains you and say they represent the entire spectrum of the players that came in. It will need a deeper analysis, but simply I would say we are happy with the players that came through from the first day when we do preliminary, even to today, and we are excited to see those who will make it.
Coach, you mentioned something interesting about talent evolving. Are there examples of players who, when they first came in, is selected because they have talent, but because as they go through what we'll say normally the 5 years at the SAFA-Transnet of School of Excellence is maybe the first 2 years were like, this boy doesn't look so good, but you continue to work, and then all of a sudden they just peaked and went to a different level.
Yeah, I think Radio Pan is one of them. Relebohile is one of them. Gape is one of them. Rasebocha is one of them. In fact, a lot of players that are now playing professional, at some point we kind of question ourselves around our choices, because what we don't take into consideration is that these are kids, and at some point they are going to grow. They are going to go through growth spurt, and when they are going through that phase, it affects their performance so bad you won't believe. And that's where people start questioning the talent of these boys, to say, hey, is this man really talented, you know? So we at the School of Excellence were privileged because we are able to see a child when he comes in and when he develops into a young adult, and we see the process he goes through. And that's why sometimes we make the decision that we make. But if we are like other people, where you either interact them when they are already 17, you don't know what happened before. So a lot of the players that are coming through, actually, there are very few players who can say they came in as top players. You know, you could see they were dynamic, they were dribble stars, and they continue throughout. You know, some they come, they drop, some, you know, second year they drop, some third year, some they just pick on their last 3 months in the program. You start seeing, you know. So, but you have to trust the process, and you know that it requires a certain level of volume, a certain level of intensity, duration, and those things will be realized when the players get to 17. So it's kind of an investment into their talent, you know. I mean, if you go and you look at some of the pictures of Relebohile when he was playing under 15, he was probably the smallest, you know, in the group against the opponents. Probably even here at the school, he was one of the smallest players, and that of course affected his ability, because people always outmuscle him from the ball, outrun him, but you could see the skill that was there when he has the ball. And even some of the things that he's trying to do and he can't execute them, they end up dispossessing. So if we didn't understand this process, we could have just simply say, hey, at the end of the year, I'm Chana, go back home. You know, you are not what you are looking for. So talent development, it's an investment, and when you invest, you can't say now I know what's going to happen, but you know the process that you must go through, you know the effort that you must make, and you have projection of what you are going to achieve in 5 to 10 years time. So you have to trust the process, and give these boys space, that as they develop physically, they become taller, their muscles, their bones lengthen, their muscle increases, you know. It's going to affect their performance, it's going to affect their behavior, mentally and otherwise. So you have to give them that support and space.
Coach, last one. 2 weeks ago, when you had the first stage of the trials, there was a frenzy here.
Yeah.
Young boys were going crazy, even adults.
Yeah.
Some saw Mabena there,
Yeah.
some saw Modiba. How important was it to bring the likes of Mabena, Modiba, who have been here, for these boys to see them and, you know, make a relation that they were once within the school and now they're in professional level?
No, it has a profound impact. I mean, yesterday when Chiefs was playing against Sundowns in the derby, you know, when Pirates got, because we didn't even watch the game, we were still doing trials, but we just hear a very loud roar, you know, and we thought it was a goal, only to find out Relebohile won Pirates a penalty, you know. And I even commented afterwards to say, you know, when I joined the school about 15 years ago, there was a lot of Kaizer Chiefs supporters, and when you look, we had a couple of players there who have been here. At some point, there was a lot of growth of Sundowns supporters. So you can see the cycle of the impact that the boys who are graduating and then end up playing professional, how it affects players here. Suddenly now we have a lot of Pirate supporters from Norway, you know, because they are supporting this ex schoolmate of them, And the same happen as soon as Mabena starts playing regularly. The same thing will happen, you know. But it's very important for all the older boys to come, because it makes these players realize that what we are talking about is achievable. It's not a pipe dream, you know. When they see these players, to say, no, these players used to be in the same room as you, used to walk the same passage. It has a different impact, unlike when you say, no, dream of becoming a professional player, you know. But when a person they can see and feel and speak to, it has a different impact, and it pushes them, because now it's something that is close to reality for them. So it's always nice to have older boys who have been part of the school coming in and interacting with the boys. And it's been the culture that when they come, we give them opportunity to address the boys, take pictures, inspire them, or say a few words, so that you encourage these boys to stay in this difficult path.
Coach, 75 boys,
Yeah.
they've written their assessments today.
Yeah.
Where to from here?
Yeah, well, right now, from the technical aspect, we are done. We shortlisted about 54 learners, and then we had to also make some few adjustments to make it 104. So those are the ones that were finally recommended to go and write. And out of the 104, only about plus minus 75 or so managed to come through, and they wrote this morning. There are others that couldn't for various reasons, and we understand, because of the time factor. So now what's left is that now tomorrow, when the teachers are back, they will start marking the scripts, and then they will go through the normal process of adjudicating and capturing the results and doing their percentage. They know the work, and then they will give us the final report in terms of who passed, who failed, and what was the pass. You know, some they pass both with high marks, some they pass both with high and low, some they pass with low, some they fail and pass with high. So it's just a variety of combination. So out of those who have written, then we will be given those who have passed, and then from those who have passed, we have to now pick our best players from there. So it's always difficult. It's not necessarily that your best player will make it, but we are crossing fingers that our players that we've already identified, they make it to that last phase. And once that process is done, which we're anticipating will be done by Wednesday, then we'll have an adjudication committee, if I put it that way. It's made out of teachers, made out of all the teachers, all the coaches, the house fathers, and chaired by the principal. And that's where now we scrutinize the results, and we fight for players. And you'll be told, no, this one can't come. Look at these marks. What? So it's gonna be a fight. And once the fight is done, we've reached consensus of who are the top 22 learners we are looking for. Then the principal will start calling individual players to say congratulations. So we are at the final leg of the intake.
And coach, are there situations where you see exceptional talent, but unfortunately on the academic side, the assessment says, nope, you are not making it through? What do you do in such cases? How do you find a balance to afford this exceptionally talented player the opportunity at the school?
Well, it's a risk, my brother, that we also have to take. There are instances where we've taken boys that have actually not did well. They actually failed, but because of their immense potential, that they had, you kind of say, look, let's take that risk. But you can't take it for all 20 learners in the class, because it means one day you're going to wake up with 0% pass rate, so you have to find a balance. So that's where I'm saying we have to fight. Sometimes they give you a leeway to say, okay, we'll give you, if let's say there are 6 exceptional players, they'll say we are giving you 2, so you must then say, out of the 6, which 2 are you going to bring?
It is not easy.
Yeah, then you must say it and say, okay, based on the reports, which 2 do we think deserve to come in? So it's a very different thing. I think people I hear people make this argument that the School of Excellence used to select the best players, which is, I don't think it's true. I think it's just nostalgia, but it's not true. Because if you look at the history of the School of Excellence, boys have been passing with exceptional marks, and the ones that were not performing well or failing, they've been released. Of course, we're not making a buzz about it, but they get released. So it's look. I think what you are having, if I may to put it this way, in a class of 20, you are bound to have 3 players who are top A students. Those ones they are going to end up as chartered accountants and what, and you can see already. And at your bottom, you're gonna have those ones. They are going to make it professional, but they are struggling academically. And then you have this huge middle block of players who are performing well, both academically and football. And unfortunately, most of them end up not making it in both ways. Anyway, they become just average, throughout. But you can see the ones that are going to make it football-wise. You can see. And there are always those who are academically inclined, they struggle with football, and those who are football inclined, they struggle with academics. So you have to find a balance, because at the end of the day, if you are going to take only academics who are top but struggling in football, you get relegated. But also, if you are taking top talent and you have 0% pass rate, the very same people who are telling you to take them, they will be condemning you and ask you to be fired, because how can you not, if you fail to teach 15 kids? So it's a very delicate balance. That's why the teachers, the coaches, and the house fathers, we sit and we deliberate, and what we come out with, it's a consensus of the process, and it's not always easy. That's why, even if we are being realistic, if you remember, just after South Africa won the 2010 World Cup, there was an explosion of PSL teams starting academy. And no one has ever asked afterwards, why did they stop? Why now they are no longer interested in schooling footballers? Because you had a situation where you have a footballer, you take him to private school, he doesn't attend class, at the end of the day, he gets 1 out of 100, and you've paid millions of rands for them to go to do. That's why most of the PSL clubs today, they are not entertaining the idea of having kids who are students. You come in, you train, you go back home, because they've realized it is more complicated than what ordinary people think, to say, no, he's a top player, so he must be there. But when he fails, it's watered down the drain. And when you are being funded, or you have people you must account to, you have to account why you have 120 boys and all of them have failed. You can't come and say, but these ones are exceptional players. They're going to, people are not going to accept that as an excuse. So at the end of the day, we have to accept that somebody's paying for this process, and that person would expect that the kids pass, because one of the reasons why they are here at the school is because they are expected to study and pass. And we can't be saying, no, but because he's exceptional, it's fine, let's not let him not pass. That's the old thinking, because you're also destroying the child. Because if he finishes without matric and he breaks a leg, then what? And we've had examples of players who were great, brilliant, and their career never took off, and they didn't even finish matric. So we have a responsibility to ensure that people that comes here, they are going to finish matric, because people are paying for it. It's a different story if your parents are paying. Then if you are in an academy where people are paying for you, probably maybe they can allow you to fail as many times as you can. But here we can't, and that's why we go through this rigorous process to ensure that candidates who are coming in are people who are footballers and academically can perform. So I think it's gonna be it require a paradigm shift for us as a country to say we need to prioritize footballers who are also educated, but it's a conversation for another day, because sentiments override national interests in this country.
Coach, it's been a long process. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for allowing me to come through here, have the access, take pictures, and just understand what is happening with the process. We appreciate it very much, and all the best going forward.
Yeah, so I think from our side, thank you, and that's the reason also I gave you our retired jersey.
It's retired.
Yeah, we've retired that jersey. It's one of the jerseys that has great memories. If you look at a lot of players who won that jersey, went to PSL, it's the most famous jersey for us. That's why it was our appreciation, and I think the reason why I thought you should come in and see, so that you could witness what is happening without us influencing. You know, maybe tomorrow they'll say, he's talking so because Bamufile JC. But the reality is you've captured, you've seen the process from day one, and I'm happy that you came from even pre-day one. You also help with distributing the invitation to your followers, and and I can see a lot of kids, they really follow your account for such information. You saw the preliminary round, you saw the different coaches who came in, you saw the second round, you saw the third round, and throughout you can see that there are different decision makers.
Yes.
Yeah. So at least we will have it on record, even when people say we are corrupt, we do this, then we're able to show them the process, and I hope you document it properly so that it also helps the 2012s and the 2013s who are coming for trials again for next year, so that they can see, because it's also part of preparation. I think if also the kids can see in advance and they know the demand, that how rigorous this process is. It's not just an issue of you coming in and then you say, it's very tough, you saw, and thank you for always covering our events. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Coach.